what are your interactions like with the Accountant fans? Have you encountered somebody who has watched it in excess of maybe like 50 times or so? Because I feel like it's an incredibly rewatchable film.
It's very rewatchable. I feel like everyone that I encounter, it's like they've always seen it more than once.
I haven't met anyone that's seen it 50 times yet. So if that person's out there.
Except for Gavin.
Yeah.
Hi there. Welcome to the Den of Geek studio at South by Southwest. I'm Alec Bojalad, and I am here with the fine folks behind The Accountant 2. I'm no fancy big city accountant man, but I couldn't help but notice that it's been quite a few years since we've gotten a sequel to 2016's The Accountant. Gavin, I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about what that journey was like for you, and then more specifically, the moment that you knew this was happening, this was for real.
We set up to write the script at Warner Brothers, and that took some time to get it right. And then there was, I guess, some musical chairs being played over there with the regime. And then there was COVID, and then we had a strike. But if you slow down, you go down, right? So we just kept pushing forward, and then we found a path with Artist Equity, because I think it was 2020, 2021 is when Ben started Artist Equity, Ben and Matt. So we had to do it there per Ben's deal. So it became complicated again with Warner Brothers. So there was just a lot of hoops that had to get us where sort of on the flight deck to take off. And then we took it to Amazon and formed a partnership with them, and here we're off to the races.
I feel like The Accountant, the original film, and this one as well, is really like that unicorn of a movie that everybody's kind of looking out for, which is it's not giant budget, it's not indie, it's your classic mid-budget action film. Having successfully operated in that space, what is something that you've learned about pulling that off in the industry at large?
I mean, I have no issue with it, because the action is secondary, even tertiary to me. It's really about the characters and the emotional lines between the characters. So, I mean, I guess if anyone's going to live in that box, I would advise them to just focus on character, and as long as you're invested in the characters, the action. The idea of like just disposable violence and these big set pieces where blowing things up and crashing and explosions, and then certain movies, people die and then they're suddenly back again later. So then what are the stakes if it's not human life? What are the stakes, right? So if you just focus on character, I think you'll be good.
Incredible segue, because let's talk about those characters.
Okay.
Cynthia, I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about what it was like to return to this project, and this time kind of work more closely with, I guess, Ben and John, and how do you feel that your character fits in there?
Yeah, I mean, I was super excited because in a way, I feel like on your end, you were going through the process over the years and knowing sort of how things were unfolding. Actors, I feel like, are often the last to know things. So, it's, I always wondered from afar what was going on, if there would be a sequel. And I had people asking me all the time, and I had no answer for them. So when I finally did get a call and get the script, I actually didn't really know how Mary Beth was going to play through this sequel. And I was just happy to be there, to be honest. I thought, maybe she shows up in the beginning and she kind of is like the link from the first movie to the second. And I was pleasantly surprised when I realized, oh no, she's not only in there, but she's an integral part of, what happens in the story. And I get to interact with all of the main characters and have these, really interesting moments with each one of them for various reasons. So yeah, just to be able to come back to something that has so much goodwill, because it's one of those projects that people constantly stop me and tell me how much they love the movie, how they're excited to see the sequel, how they've seen the first one so many times. It's very rare that you get to be part of something like that. So I was just, like I said, I was just honored to be asked back, to be honest.
I'm glad you mentioned the fan response as well, because I was always curious about that, of like, what for Gavin and Cynthia, what is it? What are your interactions like with the Accountant fans? Have you encountered somebody who has watched it in excess of maybe like 50 times or so? Because I feel like it's an incredibly rewatchable film.
It's very rewatchable. I feel like everyone that I encounter, it's like they've always seen it more than once.
I haven't met anyone that's seen it 50 times yet. So if that person's out there,
Except for Gavin.
Yeah. But no, it's funny. Ben and I, we would have these conversations as well because sometimes he would text me or when we see each other, he's like, of all the movies I've made, like he goes, when I do press or I meet people, the one they keep asking about is Christian Wolf, and when are you doing another Accountant? So, I think he's such an odd, curious protagonist for an action film that I think I think it was refreshing.
And then Daniella, sorry, I got sidetracked by that fan question. Cynthia mentioned fans. I was like, let's go. Let's get back to character.
Yes.
Okay. What can
Back to the process.
Yeah. Everybody focus now.
Yeah.
No. What can you tell me a bit about your character in The Accountant 2? And then what was it like to kind of get ingratiated into this existing cast as a newbie?
Well, this was definitely a first time for me. I've never played a character like this before. I've done action movies and action-oriented series, but I've never done anything quite like this because it was so character heavy in like such a refreshing way. She's in the neurodivergent category, I will say. She is incredibly brilliant, and I'll go as far as to say people in real life who have like really high IQs but highly destructive. I think that she's somewhere in that world. As far as like ingratiating myself into the movie, it was pretty easy. Not to say that I wasn't nervous or like terrified or I wanted to do a good job, but I think it was easy in that I really believed in my director. He really believed in me. We built this character. Yes, she was on the page, but I had a lot of autonomy to we built it together. What makes this movie so wonderful is that it's action second and it's story, filmmaker, lover first. Story always comes first. And so I felt like I was just in good hands, and it just felt like I was just joining a well-oiled machine.
About that machine, I suppose. Gavin, this being an action film, the Accountant was, and now The Accountant 2, obviously there's the traditional metrics of action, some gunplay, some punches thrown here and there. The numbers are also kind of weirdly part of the action here. I know there's a lot of fun montages of numbers zooming by the camera in the first film. How do you go about visually making math interesting?
There was a day that we were shooting, which this, we were shooting, and we had in the script where Mary Beth she has a wall of clues, and she's walking Christian through the clues, and she's sort of dissecting the case and trying to make sense of it all. And then the way it was written, Christian does what he does, where he tears it all apart and puts it all back together again. And I just always, because we did that in the first movie, when we were shooting that, I was up all night. I'm like, I'm fucking not doing that again. So we just. And my cinematographer, Seamus, who's the greatest, I call him a jazz musician. Seamus doesn't like, the prepping part of it, all the storyboarding, and he just wants to show up and play his trumpet and just jazz it out, man, and whatever happens and improvise. So I was like, we're just going to so I started just walking him through kind of my ideas of how we're going to and he's never going to go to the wall. We're just going to do something entirely different. And I never saw Seamus light up more. We're we're not doing that. We're just going to improvise. And I'm like, we're going to improvise, Seamus. So to answer your question I didn't have that kind of math in this movie. I bypassed that, and then we catch up to it later as he walks Mary Beth through what he did.
Finally here, you just happen to be speaking to the TV editor at Den of Geek, so I have a TV nerd question I'm going to have to get in. Apologies. Cynthia, can you tell me what it feels like to handle Narsil on The Lord of the Rings?
Ooh,
you're one of maybe
deep cut.
5 people on the planet who have touched that sword, maybe, I think.
Yeah, good shout out. There's definitely lots of opportunity, and I've now somehow Rings of Power has been almost 5 years of my life, which is really kind of crazy and intense to think about. But I think, whether it's Rings or anything you're doing, there is always that sense of childlike awe. I think you get to be kind of a nerd and a kid and here we are and we're all in our sort of finery and we're giving you these nice answers and being very respectful. But on a set, it's like, oh my God, like you just get to be like a kid and a nerd. And that's my happy place. So yeah, it was cool.
Well, I'll tell you what, gang. I think we're done here. Thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thanks
We
for having
appreciate it
us.
as well. Thank you so much.